I'm Teresa Jones. I'm retired ministry personnel who has served in the Canadian Shield region of the United Church for over 20 years. Today, I'm wearing a t-shirt with an image created by Anishinaabe artist Leland Bell. I'm wearing it as I speak to you about the Manitou collection, honoring the Creator, Manitou. The creation for Indigenous peoples is the center of their spirituality. In a collection of original acrylic works of art held in trust by congregations within the Canadian Shield region, Indigenous artists have given form and color to their spiritual beliefs. These works of art represent a blessing and an opportunity. In 1988, after hiking near Sault Ste. Marie, I just happened to visit a church in Chaging on Manitoulin Island. The Anishinaabe artist, Babajanojamet, or Leland Bell, of the Wakwemekong First Nation had been commissioned to paint the Stations of the Cross. His work left an indelible mark on my soul. I returned to Toronto but kept wondering where I might see more of his work. Time passed. It was 2001. I moved to North Bay and I began to serve as an itinerant educator for the former Manitou Conference. As I visited congregations, I was surprised to see the work of Leland Bell and other Indigenous artists hanging in our churches. How did they get there? As a newcomer to the area, I sought to learn the story. In 1988, Dr. David Humphreys and his partner Molly Petrina of Timmins gave the paintings to churches within the conference. Dr. Humphreys felt moved to donate these works after he learned that our denomination had made an official apology to the First Peoples of the United Church. Given the apology, Dr. Humphreys thought we should hang these paintings in our buildings for all to see. So we brought them to a Manitou Conference General Meeting, encouraging each congregation to take one home. Many were overwhelmed by his generosity and deeply moved by his quiet leadership and sincere wisdom. Like many people, Dr. Humphreys relates spiritually to the visual. He finds the images express what he finds difficult to put into words. They tell us why we are here, he says, how we should relate to this world, and how human beings and the rest of the world are integrated. Fast forward again. After hearing where the paintings had come from, I wondered aloud how many there were and if anyone had a record of where they were hanging. No one knew the number, and no, there was no inventory. So I thought it would be good to document the location of the paintings and bring them together for a showing for the whole of the conference people. Well, I tested the idea out on Jim Sinclair, then General Secretary of the United Church. As is characteristic of Jim, he went one step further. Why not bring the paintings together and put them on tour? Well, a conference committee was struck, chaired by Elizabeth Fraser, to make this happen. I became the coordinator of the project, and with seed funding from persons within and beyond the conference, along with huge support from our Executive Secretary, Will Cunder, we did it. The committee chose the name Manitou for the collection of 38 paintings, not to indicate that they were the possession of the conference, but to honor the Indigenous name for the Great Spirit, Manitou, the Creator, who had ultimately inspired these works. The tour visited 9 venues across Ontario, beginning in 2006 on Manitoulin Island, home to the 9 artists whose works are in the collection. And the year 2006 marked the 20th anniversary of the United Church of Canada's first official apology to Indigenous peoples. A second apology was made in 1998 to students of the United Church-operated residential schools, their families and communities. The artists represented in the collection includes the work of Donna Senaway, Leland Bell, Blair DeBasky, Doug Fox, James Jacko, Melvin Madabi, Stanley Panamick, Randy C. Trudeau, and Tim Trudeau. These artists represent but a few of the many, many gifted Indigenous artists. They also represent the ongoing creative expression of Indigenous peoples throughout the span of time. Well, after the tour, the paintings were returned to the congregations who are holding them in trust. Since the tour, due to changes in our church life, some of the paintings have found new congregational homes. In any case, the paintings continue to represent an opportunity for learning, dialogue, and action on the journey of living into right relations with Indigenous peoples. In 1988, when United Church Indigenous elder Edith Memnook responded to the church's first official apology, she said, "The Native people hope and pray that the apology is not symbolic, but that these are the words of action and sincerity." 10 years later, when moderator Bill Phipps spoke the words of the second official apology, he said, "We pray that you will hear the sincerity of our words today and that you will witness the living out of our apology in our actions in the future." So, what could we do individually and collectively to acknowledge the inspired work of Gitche Manitou and participate intentionally in the ongoing journey of living into right relations with Indigenous peoples? First, if you have a painting from the collection in your church building, and you haven't done so already, I invite you to put up a sign, a small sign beside it, with the name of the painting and the artist on it. Take time, as well as a congregation, to meditate on the painting, for how it might reflect the beliefs of Indigenous peoples and how it speaks to you. Second, find out where other paintings from the collection are hanging in Canadian Shield churches and go on tour as a group to see them. While on tour, you might invite one of the artists from the collection to speak to you by Zoom about their art, that which is in the collection, and pieces they are creating now. Third, read the 2 official apologies of the United Church of Canada to Indigenous peoples, as well as the 1988 response of the Native people of the All Native Circle Conference to the 1986 United Church apology. And then organize a group to discuss what you've read and consider the implications. Fourth, participate in Orange Shirt Day every year on September the 30th. Learn the story of Indian residential school survivor Phyllis Jack Webstat. Pray for the families of those who never returned home from residential school and whose remains may be discovered in an unmarked grave. And finally, give to the United Church Healing Fund, which is used to support many innovative and effective programs in Indigenous communities who are dealing with the long-term effects of residential schools. As Dr. Humphreys suggested, art is a medium that communicates. It can be a non-threatening catalyst that brings people to deeper understandings and to address topics that can be difficult. Just like the Great Spirit brought the creation into being and inspired the artists to create such great works, Gitche Manitou is also there if we are open to the creating of new relationships, new understandings, and new visions of a just people, of a just future for all peoples. May it be so.